fact that the first change that takes place is in your mind. You have to change your mind before you change the way you live and the way you move. So when we said that the revolution will not be televised, we were saying that that the thing that's going to change people is something that no one will ever be able to capture on film.
As cliche as this may sound, I do believe we live in the Matrix. You see, I define the Matrix as a deliberately constructed image of what the world is and how it operates. 99% of the things that we were told in regards to how the world truthfully works is false, and this is due to ignorance and manipulation. On a daily basis, we're debating one another on every topic imaginable because we have no guidance and we are ego-driven. This is especially prevalent in the spaces where people share their dating philosophies. We don't want to learn, but we want to hear ourselves speak. And when things don't go our way, our first thought is to blame others, but never ourselves. This is the manipulation of the ignorant I was referring to. Because just like clockwork, a new standard and/or critique of the opposite gender becomes viral and creates more division. These viewpoints aim to shame those who don't fit in, which can allow doubt to creep into the psyche of even the most self-assured person. And to those with a trained set of eyes and ears, you can tell these points all derive from a flawed understanding of humans. Like I said, manipulation of the ignorant. These viewpoints don't come from scholars, teachers, nor self-accountable people, but your average everyday Joe. You can learn from Joe, definitely, but understand that a broken clock is only right twice a day. So please take that with a grain of salt. These viral moments all derive from extreme and exaggerated definitions of masculinity and femininity. While extreme, they are still masculine and feminine traits, but they are the traits of the shadow masculine and the shadow feminine. For those unaware, the shadow is a psychological term coined by Carl Jung. It represents the unchecked and repressed sides of our masculinity and femininity. And make no mistake about it, even though it's repressed, it still finds a way to show up all the time. And when you examine the shadow traits of both points, you discover the nucleus of these extreme beliefs in dating today. It's really fascinating to discover how all these things are connected. It also makes me laugh because when someone says it's not that deep, boy, only if you knew how deep the rabbit hole really goes. And like I was saying before, due to manipulation and ignorance, the traits of the shadow have been normalized to us and chalked up as just human nature. But make no mistake about it, it is not the standard. It's the outlier for a reason. We can acknowledge that the shadows are a very important part of our psyche, but when we accept the shadow as normal, natural, and okay, we are lowering the standards of us as human beings. What makes the shadow so prevalent is because it gives us the illusion of power, but it's actually rooted in lack. I'm going to give you a list of the traits of both the shadow and masculine, and I want you to see for yourself how the illusion of power can certainly come to be. The shadow masculine's traits are overbearing, aggression/hostility, arrogance, validation through conquest, exploitation, controlling, emotional numbness, fear of vulnerability, suppression of self, unhealthy attachment/possessiveness, judgmental defensiveness, a lack of will/being cowardly. As for the shadow feminine, its traits are codependency, a need for external validation, passivity, fear of action, people-pleasing, seeking external authority, victim consciousness, emotionally overwhelmed, emotional manipulation/guilt tripping, a lack of boundaries, gossip, slander, and ostracization. Suppressed anger / passive aggressiveness, and weaponized vulnerability. As you can see, many of these traits people have taken, have shaped, and defined our reality for the worse. It's so bad that some people are even proud to admit when some of these traits exist within them. But these things have been so eloquently branded as something positive that there are those who will fight to keep these elements alive. It kind of reminds me of a quote from the TV show Mad Men. One of the characters told Don Draper, the main character, that she's never been in love before, to which Don responds by saying, "The reason you haven't felt it is because it doesn't exist. What you call love was invented by guys like me to sell nylons. The world told you what love looks like. The world told you what masculinity looks like, what femininity looks like. And yet, when the real world shows you otherwise, you critique what others learned instead of what you learned, as if you both didn't learn from the same sources. This illusion of power people get from the shadow is similar to how destruction looks more powerful than creation. Destruction looks more powerful because the impact is more immediate. We are visual and emotional beings, so the destruction gives an unparalleled spike of energy, even if it's bad. This high may leave a quicker impression, but creation has the far greater impact. Creation is more subtle in its approach because it's a seed being planted. But its impact is so great that you actually take it for granted, which is actually a compliment in itself. The only way we can grow past this is to learn accountability for our belief systems and unlearn the covert branding of the shadow in society. To further explain, I'm going to list examples that look harmless on the surface but actually reinforce the elements of the shadow in our everyday life. If someone says, "I want my partner to be obsessed with me," that's actually a need for external validation. If someone says, "I'm just a girl," that's passivity or seeking external authority. If someone says, "I just match energy," that's passive aggressiveness and a lack of boundaries. If a man says, "I want a submissive woman," that can be overbearing and controlling. Somebody writing it off as "it is what it is," that's emotional numbness and a lack of will to change it. And if you see another man calling another man a simp, that's just because he has a fear of vulnerability and he's being judgmentally defensive. And this is just scratching the surface. Obviously, everything is not finite, but this is just an example of how things that are harmless are actually way deeper than you think. And over time, as you become more aware, you'll recognize the fallacies in everybody's statements. When these extreme beliefs and sentiments are held up by society, it makes sense why so many people say they're giving up on dating or have a lack of ambition in life. They rather give up entirely before looking in the mirror, and that says a lot. Men were told they have to be fully masculine, and women were told they have to be fully feminine, when in actuality, their problems exist because their energy is not fluid. But being 100% of one or the other is blasphemy. It's dehumanizing because life is a spectrum. It exists at many different stages and frequencies. And to think only having one tool in your kit is enough is hilarious. Life requires both masculinity and femininity when necessary. And being able to be feminine doesn't hinder your masculine, nor does being masculine hinder your femininity. You can't be afraid to integrate, because if you are, you'll never be able to see life for how colorful it is. And more importantly, you'll never escape the loop of your shadow detouring your experiences as long as you are choosing to be stagnant and integrating it. The choice is yours. If you want me to break down masculinity and femininity more in depth, let me know in the comments. I'm probably going to do that regardless, but I still would appreciate the feedback. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
I'd like to make you stay. I'd like, if you don't know